Welcome to the Pandaverse. I'm here with Benny Sims and Mike Eberhardt. And Benny's got a new book coming out in October, but he's also got an audiobook that's about to be released pretty much any day. And that's one for his existing book, Code Gray, which is a political thriller murder mystery. And why Mike's on here is he did the audiobook for it and did the narration. And Mike does a lot of character voices and he does a lot of the audiobooks for Panda Moon. So welcome back, Mike. And it's been a while since we talked to Benny.
Indeed.
Thank you. To be back.
Yep, happy to be here.
And for those who don't know who I am, I'm Elgon Williams. I do a show, CNE show with Christine Gabriel. And so I'm doing this one solo. I'll try not to bore anybody. So, Benny, do you want to give us a quick summary of what Code Gray is about?
Quick. Depends on how quick you want it. It's a like you said, it's a political thriller mystery set in the few weeks before a national election, and someone is killing members of the political media, and the main character is Bodie Anderson, a longtime FBI agent, and he is given the task of finding out who is doing the killings and getting to the bottom of the case. And there's lots of twists, turns, some violence, there's actually some humor in there a little bit, and it comes to a pretty climatic ending. And I will say that I started writing this book in 2005. Okay, and it took me 9 years to finish it. So it was 2014.
And eight of those years was figuring out how to write.
Yeah, and actually 9 of those years I'm still trying to figure that out. But the story of Code Gray, in my opinion, is still kind of relevant in today's political atmosphere. So that's kind of the very, very nutshell of the story.
The tagline for this book is "Elections have consequences."
Yeah.
And they do.
And I've heard that for years and years from all kinds of different people. And boy, that is such a true statement. And they can have good consequences and bad consequences. In this story, they're a little bit bad.
Now, Code Gray, doing a little promotional thing here. Code Gray won the Killer Nashville best mystery. Was it best mystery or
best mystery?
Yeah, best mystery award. Last 2000 or 2021. So it was last year.
Right. Yeah, the book came out. The book was launched in February of 2020, and the way Killer Nashville works is they give awards for the previous year, and I just kind of submitted that just kind of as a last minute. Why not? Why the heck not? All I can do is just say, they can laugh at me and point and make fun of me and say, don't ever send us anything else again. But that's not what happened. A few weeks after I sent in the book, I got a notification that it was a finalist. And of course, that was a big, exciting thing. And I was already going to go to Killer Nashville.
It's always good to get some validation.
It is. And I went to the awards banquet. I did not expect to win because I had read a lot of the other finalists in my category, and I thought I don't have a snowball's chance of winning. And I think I bribed the judges just enough to where they kind of found things in my favor.
Yeah. And you everywhere.
And I won. And actually the award is right there behind me. It's a medal. It's a little round medal.
Can't see it that angle.
Can you not see it, Mike?
Yeah,
can you see that?
You're like cropped off in the image.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's back here behind me. And it did win Best Mystery, and that was one of the highlights of my writing career. Absolute shock and a thrill. I'd
now,
recommend it to anybody to do something like that.
so now you just need to win one at ButcherCon
Yeah.
and snowball going, right?
Yeah. I guess I need to enter, but yeah, that would be a huge thrill too.
All right. Well, Mike, you've been working on this book for a long time, and finally got it uploaded to Amazon, and they're making their decisions and everything. So we don't really know exactly the date that it's going to launch, but looking in our crystal ball, we think it's going to be around the 1st of October, around that time frame.
Yep, hoping for around that time frame. And
Well,
what a book. Such fun to work on this project with Benny. Oh my gosh. I would record chapters and character ideas and send it to Benny, and we go back and forth and talk about it through texting or on the phone. It was so much fun to collaborate on this. Benny, you've written some truly fun and interesting characters in this book.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mike. Appreciate that.
Of course. What inspired you on some of these characters?
I don't really know. I mean, I've got little backstories of how the story of Code Gray came about. I mean, the old saying, where do you find your inspiration? Well, you find it everywhere. I wanted Bodie to not be your typical really badass, tough guy who beats everybody up. And, that's kind of been overdone and it's not really realistic. I wanted him to be, use his brains more than his brawn. And of course, now I did have a character in there who kind of is a little more, energetic and youthful, and his partner Tony is the kind of guy who would rather beat somebody up. But I don't really know where those characters came from. I just kind of I don't know, just out of the mist, I guess. Just the type of people that I like to read about. That's what I decided to write about.
Fair enough. Was there anybody that I vocalized that was a surprise to you when you heard the character voices? Because what's that like, by the way, as an author? Boy, now I'm asking you a million questions. What's that like to hear your work voiced? Because I can't imagine the voices in your head are the same as what I'm creating. What was that process like for you?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, no. I mean, I don't think anybody could vocalize what I was hearing in my head. I don't think I could.
Of course.
But as far as one that really surprised me more than any, I was pleasantly surprised by the assassin, the killer's voice.
Oh,
you made him very, very soft spoken, very calm, which is the kind of guy he was, and kind of quiet, talked in a very soft voice. And I'm like, man, I liked that a lot. Bodie's voice I loved. And I will tell you, when I first got your little test audio that you sent me, I got chills. I mean, because when you think about it from a writer's perspective, characters that you've dreamed up, all right, characters you've dreamed up are being literally brought to life by somebody else, and it was your interpretation, and man, it was spine tingling. I mean, it is such a great feeling to have that happen. I don't know, man. I know, Mike, you'll remember this. I've told you several times, getting little chapters from you every once in a while. I get an email with 6 to 10 chapters, and it was like a Christmas present. Every month or so, I would get this really nice Christmas present that I could listen to. So, it was a total thrill. You did such an awesome job with your variation of your voices, and they're very distinctly different. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you make voices distinctly different like that, but you did a really good job with it.
Thank you. You'll see today that I make crazy faces when I change character voices. Wait, when I read live, you'll be like, wow, what character voice is that? And that face is crazy.
I totally understand that, because I make crazy faces while I'm writing. So that's good.
And you're like, did I write that?
Yeah, right. I'm telling you, it's almost I don't think out of body experience is the right way to describe that, but it's such a uh, it's so bizarre hearing somebody turn your characters into life, and oh my gosh, it's just I don't know, I don't have words to describe it. I'm supposed to be able to write, and I can't even describe how it feels.
That's so fun. I got to
Yeah,
say that Killer's voice was really interesting to do. I think the biggest challenge with the vocals was doing the Killer's voice and then Roger Clayton, because I wanted them
yeah,
both to seem like extensions of Bodie's voice, but without sounding like Bodie or having the
right,
intonation of the Bodie, the inflections of Bodie. But I wanted Clayton to have that kind of feeling, like that mentor feeling. You could hear some of Clayton in Bodie when Bodie talks, kind of how
yeah,
somebody new would take
yeah,
on that kind of mentor, mentee mentality. And then also, since the Killer had that whole connection, we're so alike, you and I really wanted him to have some of those kind of quieter Bodie vocal tones without it sounding the same.
exactly, and you pulled it off, and that's actually a good way to look at it. Having a little bit of a piece of Bodie in the Killer and in his mentor Roger Clayton. I never really thought of it like that, but that's an interesting take. So
Yeah, if
I
you go
like
back
that.
and listen, you'll hear sometimes Roger has some inflections that Bodie has, and I did that specifically because I assumed that Bodie would get it from him, just like he's doing the asking questions of Tony and all the random stuff he
Yeah,
picked up as a rookie and a young officer. Like I bet
yeah,
he'd pick up some of the phrasing and ways of speaking of his
yeah,
mentor.
yeah. And for the people who don't know what Mike's talking about, uh, main character Bodie Anderson is a senior agent, and he's got a young agent named Tony Girardi who is kind of like his trainee. Tony is a rookie, and Bodie likes to mess with rookies by they'll be in the middle of an investigation, looking at bullet wounds and blood spatters and things like that, and all of a sudden Bodie will just ask him a random question like, you got any kids? You know,
Right.
what'd you have for supper last night? And he learned that from his mentor Roger Clayton, because Roger Clayton used to do that to him, and it taught him how to focus and to ignore the noise and focus on what's important. So Bodie does that with the younger agents under him. So, yeah.
I thought that was really clever. I love in this book how you don't tell anybody that Bodie is mentoring Tony and that he's taking kind of a teacher role. Instead, you just show us by his actions what he's doing and the kinds of activities he does, the questions he asks him. I absolutely love that. There's no points like Bodie is a mentor. It never said that. It was just like you just watch and see the things he does, and you come to understand he's not hazing him or teasing him or giving him a hard time. He's trying to groom him for future success.
Yeah, right. And you would, well, Elgin, you would probably believe this. A story changes 100 different times while you're writing it, especially if you're a pantser like me. I don't outline. I just kind of write by the seat of my pants.
A
Uh,
pantser.
yeah, yeah,
Hey, try
uh,
writing a multi-book series.
yeah. That's got to be tough. But
There's, you're in book 3. The first 2 have already been published, and you go, oh crap, I should have done this in book 1.
yeah, exactly. And that's it would probably be better if I would outline, but I don't. But uh, the story evolved several times. I almost made it to where Bodie was going to be very standoffish and
Oh, wow.
stay out. I work by myself. I don't need a partner. I don't want a partner. Leave me alone, Tony. You just go do something else. And the more I did things like that and kind of thought about it, I thought, yeah, that's probably not realistic. It's probably a little bit too TV series type things that happen, that don't really happen in life. So I decided to make it to where, without actually telling Tony, hey, I'm going to show you the ropes, uh, I he just kind of leads by example, and kind of shows Tony how to do things by the way he's doing things.
I love that. It felt so realistic. As an actor portraying it, it felt very realistic.
Yeah, well, thanks. Appreciate that. You brought it to life, no doubt about it.
Thank you.
Well, why don't we hear a sample of it?
Perfect.
We've
That'd be great.
got everybody pitched up and excited to hear it now.
All right. Well, let's do chapter 3 of the book it takes place after there has been a murder already of a media talk show host, and everybody's on the scene. So you got Werner Capellan, who's the chief here, who's in charge of everything, the scene. You get Bodhi, we get Tony, we'll see some Harry, and of course some of those questions that we're just talking about, those mentoring type questions. And so yeah, this will be great. Let me grab a water here and we'll go. Bodhi arrived at the top level of the Murray parking garage and walked into a scene of muted chaos. Forensic technicians surrounded the dead man's car, taking fingerprints, blood samples, and ballistic measurements. Uniformed cops kept a small crowd of curious onlookers at bay with barricades and yellow crime scene tape arranged across all access points. News photographers elbowed each other while jostling for a better position to get the perfect shot. 2 television helicopters hovered far overhead. The chop, chop, chop of their rotors was the only sound. Capellan and 2 other agents stood at the front of John Smith's car, looking at the dead body. They all had the same body language, their hands thrust into pants pockets, fidgeting with loose change while rocking back and forth on the soles of their feet. Bodhi walked up beside them, pushed his hands into his pants pockets, stared at the body, and started rocking back and forth. "Shot once in the back of the head," Cap said. "I bet he didn't feel a thing," Bodhi said. "Looks to me like somebody walked up and popped him with the 9mm, said the shorter of the other 2 men. His name was Tony Girardi. That's about all Bodhi knew about him, other than the fact that he was a recent graduate of the academy and probably got to the crime scene well ahead of any other detectives, so he could make a good impression. Tony was also getting the reputation of being a bit of a hothead. The taller man was Harry Feynman, who'd been with the FBI for 10 years. He wasn't a very good detective, but he had the reputation of being a good partner. Everybody liked him because he was always in a good mood and he was quick with a joke. Bodhi stole a quick glance at him after Tony's remark, and Harry rolled his eyes. "What makes you think they used a 9mm? Asked Cap. "That's what everybody uses nowadays, Cap. They all want to be Dirty Harry or something," Tony said. "Dirty Harry?" asked Bodhi. "He used a .44 Magnum, didn't he? How old are you anyway, kid?" Tony didn't answer. "Hey, I'm not dirty. I took a shower a few days ago, I'm sure of it," Harry cracked. It was a bad joke, typical of his sense of humor. Cap looked at Harry and shook his head. "Good God. We're standing here looking at one of the most famous people in the country who just happens to have a bullet hole in his head, and you clowns are making jokes. Get on this, Bodhi. Tony, you help him. Harry, I want you to go home. Why are you even here anyway? I never called you." "Ah, Cap, come on. I ain't worked but 12 hours today," Harry said. "Go home, Harry. You probably need a shower anyway." Harry pulled his hands from his pockets, shrugged, straightened his tie, and ambled away. "See you guys later," he called over his shoulder. Cap turned his attention to Bodhi and Tony. "Go ahead and get started," he said. "Find any witnesses, look for security video. Find out if this guy had any enemies." He turned to walk away, then paused. "Let me know as soon as you find out anything." "Will do," Bodhi said as Cap headed toward a cluster of uniformed policemen. "So, what do you think? 9mm in the back of the head?" asked Tony. "Actually, right now, I'm less concerned about what was used than I am about who used it and why," Bodhi said without looking up. He leaned forward with his hands on his knees, staring through the windshield at the dead talk radio star. "I'm sure the lab guys will let us know what weapon was used soon enough." "Oh, yeah, I know. I was just, guessing," Tony said. "This guy was a talk radio host. He had lots of enemies," Bodhi said, straightening up. "The way I understand it, he pissed off a lot of people. So maybe he pissed off the wrong person." "Wasn't he an addict or something? Maybe it was a drug deal gone bad," said Tony. "Well, maybe. But I don't think he'd try to buy drugs on the top level of the place where he parked his car every day, where everybody would know who he was. Besides, people like him don't do their own dirty work. They have somebody do it for them." "Well, yeah, I thought about that too," Tony said. "Uh-huh," Bodhi grunted, never looking up as he continued to look for clues. He walked around the car, taking his time, never touching anything, careful not to contaminate the crime scene. Tony watched for a moment, then started doing the same thing in the opposite direction. They met at the back of the car. Bodhi stood there, thinking, looking at the dead body, arms crossed in front of his chest. Tony adjusted his posture to stand the same way. After a long moment of silence, Bodhi glanced at Tony and asked, "How old are you, Tony?" Tony gave Bodhi a surprised look. "What? How old are you? I asked you a couple of minutes ago and you never answered me." "You're wanting to know how old I am? Now?" Bodhi nodded with a slight shrug. "I'm 25. Why?" "Just wondering." Bodhi continued looking at the corpse. Tony turned back to look at the body. After a moment, he couldn't stand it any longer. "Look, if you're all concerned about working with me because I'm a rookie and all, just say so. I may not have 20. Easy, easy, easy," Bodhi interrupted. "I just figured that if we're going to be working together, I need to get to know you better. That's all." Tony sighed. "Okay, sorry." "Don't worry about it." "So, what exactly are we looking for?" "You tell me." Tony thought for a second, then looked around the area. "Well, I'd say we need to find a trajectory." "That's right, kid. You passed your first test. Tell me something else." "Okay," Tony said. He tugged at his cuffs and adjusted his jacket. He bent forward, put his hands on his knees, and looked hard at the slain talk show host's head. The blood from the bullet hole had turned a dark brownish black. "You married?" Bodhi asked. Tony stood up, rolled his eyes, and sighed. "Yeah, 3 years. We got married in college, got a 6-month-old daughter." "Congratulations. Being a dad is an awesome thing, ain't it?" "Yeah, it is." "Enjoy her while you can. Next thing you know, she'll be gone." "That's what everybody keeps telling me," Tony said. "But no offense or anything, but I'm not sure how I can concentrate on the case with all these interruptions and distractions you keep throwing at me." Bodhi finally uncrossed his arms and put his hands on his hips. "You'd better learn," he said as he moved towards the driver's side of the car. "Try solving 5 murder cases at the same time. Try looking for evidence during a thunderstorm or when it's 2 degrees outside. Try doing it while your sister's dying of cancer. Try it when you have the flu and Cap says you have to work anyway. If you get distracted by a couple of measly questions, then you got that deficient disorder stuff." "Deficient disorder? What? You mean attention deficit disorder, ADD?" "Yeah, that." Fine, whatever," Tony said. "The entry wound's in the back of the head, so the shot came from behind the car," Bodhi said. The change of subject caught Tony off guard once again. Yeah, it looks that way." "With a 9mm? "I'd say so." "Then where's the exit wound?" Tony fumbled for an answer. "A 9mm would have probably blown part of his face off. There's no exit wound here, so I'd be willing to guess that it's something a whole lot less powerful," Bodhi said. He glanced over at Tony. "Take that, rookie. 9mm my ass," he thought. "We'd better wait on the autopsy to see what kind of bullet was used," Tony said. "Yeah." "Okay, so assume it was a smaller caliber. It was still fired from right behind the car, though. Whoever it was probably hid somewhere and walked up behind this guy's car right after he got in and then popped him in the back of the head." "I don't know. Maybe," Bodhi said as he looked around the parking deck. "He could have been hidden somewhere, but I don't know about walking up to the car." "You think they were in a car and drove up behind him?" Tony asked. "Well, that's probably the best possibility." "What if he pretended to be somebody looking for an autograph?" "This guy didn't give autographs. He just sold them online from his website." "Sold them? You're kidding, right?" Bodhi didn't respond. He kept scanning the parking deck for any kind of clue, but there was nothing there. Nothing. The deck was empty except for John Smith's car, a small dumpster, a few policemen, the lab people, and the media. "Let's check that out," he said, pointing to the dumpster. They trotted across the parking deck, raised the lid of the yellow garbage container, and peered inside. The interior was nearly full of newspapers, plastic garbage bags, and cardboard boxes. There was nothing indicated that something had hidden in there with a gun. I don't think there's room for a shooter in here, Tony said. Yeah, probably not, Bodhi answered. He let the heavy plastic lid slam back into place as he turned and surveyed the crime scene once again. Did the shooter walk up to Smith's car? Or was it a drive-by? Did he hide in the stairwell at the far end of the deck? Did Smith know the killer? There were no surveillance cameras on this level, so there was no video evidence. Talk to me, you son of a bitch, Bodhi said under his breath. Chapter 3.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Wow.
So fun. Hey,
It's
Christine.
so fun. Hi,
Nice to see
everybody.
you.
Sorry I'm a little late.
Welcome
Just
to
got
it. How you
home.
doing?
It's been a long day.
Fair enough.
Yes.
It's called day job interference.
Such a great time.
Right, for sure.
So Benny, how does it feel hearing Mike read like this beautiful work of art that you created?
Well, first of all, he did a lot better job on the voices than I had in my head. I can tell you that. It is, a lot of writers would love for their books to be turned into a movie or something like that. And this is about as close as it gets without it actually being a movie. Is actually having your characters that you dreamed up with your vivid imagination actually come to life. It is it's humbling and thrilling, and like I said a little bit before you got on, it's a little bit bizarre. It's a little bit bizarre. So I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah,
Aw,
I'm not old enough to remember listening to live radio shows, back in the days. I'm not that old. But when I was in college, we had to create radio programs, old style radio programs, as part of, I was in communication and in production, and they wanted to teach us how everything was done back in the old days.
Cool.
And for that class, we had to listen to a lot of old radio shows like that. And I really think that the way you read audiobooks is like an old radio show.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so much fun listening to it, like on the playback and stuff. It does sound like that. And I used to listen to a lot of those old radio shows, stuff like The Shadow Knows and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
much fun. That's a great compliment. Thank you very much.
and it's like amazing how you go from, one voice to the next one with such ease. It's just mind-blowing. It's awesome.
Thank you. It's so fun too.
I was going to ask the same thing, Christine. I mean, that just, it amazes me how, in this scene that you just read, there were 4 characters, and 4 distinctly different voices. I don't know how you do something like that, because there are other scenes where there are even more people, and it just it amazes me how you can on a dime you can just go from one to the other and then back to the first one.
Right.
I don't know how you do that.
And
You must be an actor or something.
Yes. The acting skills are just amazing. And even your facial expressions, I know that like people don't usually get to see that part of it, but as I'm watching you, you're literally in character, every single character. And it was just so cool to see you just change your facial expressions and the tone of your voice and the pitch of your voice, everything about it. It's just so awesome.
Thank you.
What's your record, Mike, for the number of voices in an audiobook that you did? Because I remember you telling me some astronomical number.
It's crazy, you guys. So the highest I've ever done, the most characters I've done is in a book called Southbound, and I did 81 different characters in that book. The previous record was 55 and 7 different accents in a book that I did called Identity, but Southbound takes the cake at 81, and most of them are throwaway characters where they have a couple lines and then they go away. Funny enough, I had so many characters in that book, I had to create 2 tools to help me. I ended up creating a spreadsheet of descriptions of vocals like smoky, forceful, like those kinds of adjectives to describe the voice. And then I don't know if you guys ever seen the color wheel they use for like home decorating and painting and things. I made a color wheel of emotions so that the inner part of the wheel is like happy, sad, angry, whatever. Wow. And then subdivide that by, some more categories underneath that, and then even more. So there ends up being about, I want to say 64 or 65 different emotional moods. And so when I get a random character like a hotel clerk that's never coming back, I'll just think in my head, a random number between 1 and 200, 197, it'll say jubilant or, smokers, whatever it is. And then I'll look at the emotion wheel, and then I'll, of course, I'll think about the scene. Is this clerk happy to be here? What's their day been like? And you can add a little fake backstory just to get a little energy into the voice, a little bit of they're coming from somewhere, they're here now, and then they're going somewhere else. Even though they're only there for a moment or two, I always try to make them feel real. And so I'd invent those tools for that book because I kept coming on another character. Oh my God, okay, another one? What am I doing? Some other lady now? Like, it was just impossible. And so that was super, super helpful. And so I use that tool now when I create the voices, even main characters. I'm so grateful for Benny's help for this book because the main characters, we workshopped it a little bit. I created a couple different versions and sent them to Benny and tried to find something that sounded right and would align with expectations. And it was really fun to do. And so by the time I actually started recording this book, I felt like I already knew the characters and had a really good grip on them. Sometimes that comes a little later, but this time it was really great from the get-go, just to start running with it.
Yeah, well, something else, Mike, that you're not mentioning is that you also asked me for a backstory on a lot of the characters, like where they grew up.
Oh yeah,
and that would affect how you would vocalize their voice based on where they were brought up.
So, absolutely. They have some kind of an accent.
That had a lot to do with it.
For sure. The backstories were so helpful because you guys, I don't know if you guys remember, I'm really weird as an actor because I don't read the book ahead of time. I think most actors read the whole book and then make their decisions. I don't do that because there's two reasons. One, I'm from the theater. So on the theater stage, everything is big and broad, but in audiobooks, everything is tiny and intimate because I'm just there in your ears. And so I'm always striving to hold myself back, pull it down. And so I don't read the book in advance because I don't want to telegraph the emotions, or if a character is going to betray them later, I don't want that sneaking out in my performance because the listener would have no idea. And so I feel like I don't want to have an idea. And then plus I read the chapter the night before I record it, and the emotions are so strong. You go to sleep thinking, how could that person do that? Or, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? And then you go record it. And then I always want to get in there and record so I can find out next. And then the other part for me, at least, I don't know about you guys with big projects. If you told me you're going to do 81 voices and 5 different accents, and it's going to be 11 hours of audio, I wouldn't want to do it. It sounds really daunting. But if you tell me you're just doing this one chapter and you got to create 2 people and one throwaway, that's much easier to, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. Same thing for me. So I try to keep it small and easy for me to move forward with the projects. But boy, talking about the characters and learning their backstories from you, Benny, and hearing where they came from, why they're that way, that adds so much to the characters and the development of them. Things that I don't even know that I would get out of just reading the book that I learned from you talking about the characters.
Well, it helped me out a lot just with you and me talking about it and discussing, I didn't know where to begin as far as a backstory on a character, and you helped out by, where was he raised, and what were like his hobbies when he was a kid, and what was he a child of divorce, things, all the little intimate details. And to be honest, I didn't actually know the backstory of a couple of my characters. So I had to kind of make it up based on what I'd already written. And that actually helped me learn my own characters a little bit better, I think.
Oh, that's so fun. That kind of information helps me as an actor inform, the portrayal I'm going to do, because a lot of times in the books, it won't say why the character is acting a certain way, or it won't give inflection advice, or he's saying this in a hostile, it doesn't always have emotions along with the writing. But of course, emotions are part of our everyday experience and interactions with everybody. And so if for instance, like you said, a child of divorce who maybe was a smoker in his 20s, that gives you a different attitude to approach relationships or trust that maybe aren't in the book, but that you would hear in a character's voice, Maybe they're hesitant, they got a little grovelly sound in there. Maybe they have addiction issues and they get nervous around people who are smoking or in social environments. And that's never in the book, but it helps inform the characterization. And I feel like it makes them seem like a more real character.
Yeah, it's going to help me as far as on down the road with the series too, now that I know my character a little bit better.
Exactly.
That's so fun. Have you started working on a sequel for this one?
I've got a couple in the works. Yeah,
Nice.
I've actually got 2 in the works.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm like a juggler. I've got actually 5 projects I'm working on simultaneously. I probably need to be like Tony and focus on my, learn how to focus on the task at hand and avoid all the noise from the outside.
You got to give me another
Listen,
grade.
I'm just as guilty, Benny. I'm right here with you.
Yeah, you're wired a certain way, and you don't mess with that. So.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't help it anyway. It's just kind of the way I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just be sitting there doing nothing, and an idea for an entire book will pop into my head, and of course I'll have to write down some notes on it, or I'll forget. So not only do I have those projects going on, I've got these other ideas for projects that are kind of sitting off on a shelf somewhere. So I guess I need to get busy and get them all finished before I end up dying and not have another book out. So.
No, you're gonna need to write 26 books so that you can start making some money, right?
Yeah. It's only 20. It's only 20. I mean, that's yeah. You did, Christine. Before we were talking before, and I met an author at Killer Nashville, and she has only been writing for about 6 years, and she actually won Best Book at Killer Nashville this year, and another Silver Falchion Award for Best Suspense or something like that. And she's got 35 books out. She self-publishes, and she says she did not make a profit at all until her 20th book because of self-publishing costs and things like that. But she was building up her audience over a period of time. So.
Yeah, I had read a statistic and it said in order for any author, self-published or even published, you have to have a minimum of 10 to 12 books out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember seeing an interview with Lee Child, which he's a big influence on my writing. And he said he didn't make any money until his 11th book, I think.
Wow.
And he's going to make a deal.
You don't really start gaining any kind of readership following until like your 5th book.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I'm closing in on profitability, you guys. This is my 17th audiobook. Only 3 more to go, and I'm gonna start making money.
Yeah, people look at people look at a new author on Amazon and they only have like 3 or 4 books, and they're like saying, well, do I really want to invest, in this whole thing? But they go to another author and they see 12 books and they go, hey, if I like this guy's
they're reputable.
Style.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot of material to work with here, so I can see the side of it,
But those people don't have Mike Eberhardt doing their audiobook.
Right.
So,
yes.
So I've got one up on them.
Yes, you do.
We're ahead of the game.
That's right. That's right.
We're gonna bring Benny back in to talk about his new book right before the launch of it.
Yay.
That one's called Mile Marker Zero.
Mile Marker Zero, right.
That's a great title.
It doesn't have anything to do with Code Gray, except there's murders in this.
Lots of murders. I hear there's lots of murders.
There's a lot of murders.
There's 2 or 3. Yeah. Yeah, there's 2 or 3 murders.
This is probably the bloodiest book I've read.
Yeah. And the bad thing about it is this is a serial killer book, okay? Not at all associated, like Elgon said, not at all associated with Code Gray. It's written in first person. Code Gray's in third person. It's basically a standalone thriller. And the killer gets sick at the sight of blood.
Really? That's an interesting twist.
Yeah.
And you see all this through his eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
You're in the mind of a serial killer.
Right. And Elgon, I've told you this before. I just people ask me where I get my inspiration for this one, I just say this is my autobiography. It's just, you know. And no,
Note to self: everybody stay on his
right,
good side.
that is not my autobiography. It's not just partially my autobiography. So.
You got to understand something about Benny. He's got a weird sense of humor.
Yeah, I do.
I'm just really glad we're on a video call and not all together in a studio.
Right, yeah, that could be it. Right. But like Elgon, you said
Benny, you stay in Alabama, and Mike can stay in California, and Christine can stay in Ohio, and I'm in Las Vegas.
But
we're also
didn't you say in one of your videos not too long ago, Elgon, talk about people who write about murders and killing and all that are really good people because the writing kind of it purges their soul of any of these bad thoughts. So
yeah,
I must have had a bunch of bad thoughts.
Oh, it's true. It's true. I know several of you. Got Gambino Iglesias. He writes some really dark sentences. Nicest guy in the world.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
And as far as you know, I'm as nice as I can be.
Yeah. You seem like you're a pretty nice fellow.
Yeah. Right. I try to be. I try not to kill I literally try not to kill anybody. So.
Well, it's positive.
Yeah.
Just
right.
Do it the legal way out. On paper.
Right about it. Just right about it. Now, I'm not saying I haven't ever wanted to kill somebody, which I don't think I have, but hurt them, yeah, maybe. And this book just kind of takes it, like Elgon said, it just kind of purges all that out of my system.
Hey, there you go.
Right.
That's the right way to do it.
Right. Yeah, the original title of the book was called 52. Because this is a serial killer who is mad at the world, and he's always been a loser in life, and he sets his goals. He's never met any of his goals, so he sets a goal for himself of killing one person a week for an entire year, 52 victims. And I wasn't real happy with that title, but it's all I had when I was writing it. And then I just decided to tie in the fact that he travels. He literally zigzags all over the country. He goes from Southern California to Northern Ohio to, in Nevada. He's all over the place. I tied that in with the highway, the idea of a highway and mile markers. And the book ends at Key West, Florida, and there's U.S. Highway 1 ends or begins right there in Key West at mile marker 0. So,
and this guy's living his life in between these episodes. So you get that backstory in it, and you get to the point where you're feeling some kind of sympathy and empathy for the guy at times. You can understand why he wants to kill this one person,
Yeah, right.
There's a couple of them, but for most of the people, it's a matter of wrong place at the wrong time,
Exactly, right. And Mike, if you were
commit to going to the gym once per week, let alone murdering someone and dealing with all the fallout and cover-ups and all that stuff.
Well, he does struggle. He does struggle through this, but if you were to ever narrate this book, Mike, it would be pretty easy because there's bare bones number of characters in this book, right, Elgon?
Funny is that book actually?
There's not a lot of speaking characters in the book other than you've got his narration and.
That book actually brought me to Code Gray, Benny, believe it or not. I was talking to Alan about projects and books I was interested in. He said, you might be interested in the serial killer book that Benny's writing. The guy's very organized, kills one person per week. And I was like, that's really intriguing. Let's talk more about that. And we talked maybe a month later. And he's like, well, it's being edited. It's not quite ready. Why don't you take a look at Benny's book, Code Gray? And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll take a look. And I read the first chapter and I was hooked. That first chapter deals with the assassin. He's in a dumpster and he's looking through a 2-inch hole in the dark, getting ready to kill this guy. And I was like, ooh, this is interesting. It had me right away. It had me. It was really cool.
Thank you. Well, you did You did a masterful job on it. I still can't get over this. I cannot get over the fact that my characters have been brought to life by Mike. That's such a great feeling.
So fun. I can't wait for everybody to hear it. I think it's some of the best character work I've done in a long time. I think some of my favorite characters since I narrated, you guys remember Seth's book, Project 137?
Yeah.
Such great characters in that book. And this book reminded me not of the book or the content or anything, but just in the characterization and the depth of the characters and the meat on the bones, so to speak. This one was really enjoyable. I can't wait for you to write a sequel because I miss these guys already. There's a scene in the book where they're all getting together for breakfast and they're eating muffins and coffee. And I remember recording that scene in the morning. I was like, it's like I'm here with my friends. I'm like, hey, you guys, it's great to see. It sounds stupid, but I was like, I missed you. It's so funny.
Characters become actually a part of you.
Yes, absolutely.
They actually become living, breathing, real people in the eyes of an author.
Yes.
And I imagine it would be the same with being a book narrator, that they become actually living, breathing people that you learn to, that they're your friends and you get along with them and you know the little tidbits about them and things like that.
Here's a book idea. You've got an audiobook narrator, an actor like Mike, who suffers from multiple personality disorder.
Oh gosh. Oh God.
Are you writing my biography? What are we doing?
Well,
Mike, funny. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, you mentioned Seth Augenstein's book. I had actually, I've been in touch with Seth off and on ever since we signed with Panda Moon, and
wow.
yeah, and he's a great guy. So, and he is such an incredible writer. Oh my gosh, he knows how to develop a character like nobody else.
He does.
And he, I asked him about his experience with you on the audiobook, and he couldn't say enough good things about you. He said, you two will hit it off. You two will hit it off. And he's right. I mean, golly, I don't know, from the very first time we ever contacted each other, you and I, we were just, it's almost like we were clicking on the same page,
Absolutely. For sure. The collaboration was so much fun. I keep saying I can't wait to work with you again. And I really mean it because I had a great time. He wrote the nicest emails, you guys. As artists, when you're a creator, I'll speak for myself. I can't speak for you. I'm never super confident, right? You do it, I hear the flaws. There's things I wish I could do better, or this phrase could have been hotter or something. I think these things, and I'll send the chapter, and Benny will just write me this really nice email saying, this is really fun, and I noticed you laughed here. He picks up on all the little details that a lot of people miss. And it just made my job such a pleasure because I knew when I created something that you were going to find it. And you found so many of the little details that just make the characters that no one notices. It was so much fun to work with you.
Well, here's the thing, the way that the product that you produce, especially in dialogue, guys, Mike he'll add little and things like that are not in the manuscript, but it's exactly the way people talk. Like when somebody says something to Cap, the supervisor, FBI supervisor, he'll say something like, I don't know, maybe, but in the manuscript, it just says, I don't know, and he adds that little bit of inflection in there, like I said, the little, and little pauses and things like that actual people do, that really, I think, helped bring everything to life.
Thank you for saying that. I do my best to make them sound realistic. I want the characters to feel real, to sound real. And hardly anyone just has their words ready to go. There's always a pause or a thinking or a commentary or whatever, something.
Right. That's exactly right.
So that's one of the challenges when we're doing these shows is we'll have some long pauses and I edit those out. So, I mean, sometimes you don't notice it. Sometimes you do. But, we try to edit out the long pauses because nobody wants to sit and hear nothing, of course.
Right.
But it does take some time to put your thoughts together from time to time.
Especially the raw audio has a lot of pauses and stuff because I use weird props to make some of the character voices. So, like, do you remember the old man, Benny, the old man voice that I do when Yeah, so to do him, I don't just use I put an almond in my mouth and hold it between my back teeth to give him a different enunciation when he's speaking. And so that's why he sounds so different. Or when I did Clayton, I thought he needed to sound cool, but he's not smoking or anything. So I cut a straw and put a straw in my mouth and held it in my mouth while I vocalized him, just to give me that focus. And it does change the way, or like you see me with Tony, he's got that like, yeah, you know, I gotta go, like I use my lips as a way to focus in. It just changes the sound just enough. So with pauses, I have that in my booth. So I'll say a line and then put the almond in your mouth and get ready to go. And then you say a few things, then take it out, take a drink of water, and then you keep going. It's pretty funny, like all the crazy little tricks.
You'd never told me that.
Oh man, I use so many tricks. Or I'll wake up at 5 in the morning to get, like, my voice like right now is not that low, but in the morning it's lower. And so when I did the killer chapters, I wanted those, even though it's just straight narration and not a character voice, I wanted the tone to be darker and deeper. And so I would wake up at like 5 or 6 in the morning and go record just the narrating parts of that, so that my voice was so much more resonant and so much deeper. And then as the book progressed, I stopped doing it because things started to go wrong and he wasn't as in control and as in charge anymore. And so I changed the inflections and started to raise the voice a little higher to bring the tension in. Just those crazy little things. Or some characters, you know, just get right on the microphone. Some I stand back, or you raise or lower it to change the pitch a little bit. Just kooky things to do. I don't know what made me think of that, but here we are.
Tricks of the trade that I would have never thought of. I just basically type on a keyboard. That's all I do.
You have to imagine it all and create it all. I don't know how you do it, you guys. All three of you pulling this stuff out of the ether is amazing to me.
And he actually stands up when he writes too. So.
Yeah, I do.
Do you really?
Yeah, I'm actually at my desk right now. It's one of those the legs are motorized where it raises up and.
Oh sure.
Yeah, I learned that from Key West. I was visiting Key West, you know, down there where mile marker 0 is, and Ernest Hemingway's house is down there, and they have guided tours and everything. And I was on one of those tours one time, and they talked about how he wrote standing up. He was a war correspondent early in his career, and he took some shrapnel in the back of his legs.
Oh, wow.
And so he couldn't sit for long periods of time. So he just stood up and he put his typewriter on a bookcase up against the wall in his bedroom, and that's where he wrote. And I thought, I'm going to try that. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. The quality of my writing is better. It makes me, I don't know, it makes me focus a little bit better. I don't know. Like it's kind of hard to explain. And, you know, there's been in the last few years, in office supplies, these Veridesk raise up type desk, you know, that people can just that's one of the reasons why, is because of it helps with focus. And that's, I don't know, I just figured it out one day that I could write better if I stood up, and I've been doing it ever since.
That's awesome.
So,
that's great.
It's not good for you to sit all the time.
No, it's not. No.
I'm a lazy narrator. I narrate sitting in an office chair. I'm just sitting there all like, hey, what's happening? So funny.
I doubt it, even if you stood up, I don't think it would improve. You're pretty good as it is, so I don't think I would change anything.
I'm not changing it.
Yeah, don't change a thing.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up for today, and you know, we're gonna have Benny back in a couple of weeks here. His next book launches on the 19th, right? 19th of October.
October 19th, right?
Yeah, that is fun. If you want a live reading, I volunteer. I'll come in and read something from it. If you want to do it on your interview, no pressure. You can edit that out, bro.
That'd be cool.
Yes, I vote yes.
So just let me, if you would like that, let me know the date and time and send me what you'd like me to read, and I will absolutely come in and perform it here.
We have a meeting scheduled for the Sunday before the launch, so whatever that is. What is the 16th? I think.
I don't know. I don't math very well, so I, you know.
I don't either, Benny. That's how I knew I liked you.
Yeah, we're just not math people.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, 16th.
Okay. 16th. Let me just check. But yeah, that'd be really fun if you're up for it. If you'd like that.
What I need to do, Mike, is I just need to go ahead and send you the manuscript.
Oh my gosh, do it. That's so fun.
Okay. I
would love to slot it in for. I'm narrating another book already, but I would love to do it. So yeah, please do send me something to read for that. I'll come in and do. You know, I'll just sit here quiet as a mouse, and you guys do your thing, and then I'll read the thing. And then I'd be very interested in narrating it, so that'd be really fun.
I would much rather somebody else do the reading than me. So yeah, absolutely.
Elgon, you're up.
So mile marker 0 is going to be available on the 19th. You can pre-order it now in Kindle. And generally speaking, the print books are available usually the weekend before the actual launch of the Kindle. So you can look for that if you like to read print books. And it's a really good book. I read the original submission manuscript of this one.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, this is a different kind of book to read. And I couldn't really put it down. I mean, I read it pretty fast.
Wow, thank you.
I was telling Zara and Alan, the owners of Pandaverse Publishing, I was going, you need to read this book. This is a disturbing book. And it's most disturbing because you start identifying with the main character because you're seeing everything through his eyes, and you can understand. You may not agree with his decisions, but you understand them.
Yeah,
that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, I'm actually one of those writers that does not believe in making your readers comfortable. I actually like to make them a little bit uncomfortable until maybe at the very end, maybe wrap things up in a nice, tidy little bow. That doesn't necessarily happen in this book. But if a reader, if a reader is comfortable with a book, in my mind, then it's boring to them. I like to make them sit on the edge of their seat, not knowing what's going to happen next or how things are going to turn out. Make them uncomfortable. As a reader, books I like to read, I like to be kind of uncomfortable when I'm reading them a little bit. That's just kind of the way I am. There's
one character he runs into a couple of times, and I think it's up in South Dakota. Is that right? Yes. I mean, when you're reading as a reader, when you're reading about this character, you're like saying, I can't wait until he kills this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. That guy really deserved it, didn't he, Elgon? I mean, yeah. I think the guy really deserved it. But I don't want to do any spoilers or anything.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll all meet again on the 16th. We've already set up
fun. And, thank you both, Christine and Elgon, for having us on today. It's so much fun to see you guys and talk about the book. Yeah. Benny, what a genuine pleasure it is to see you on the video and to talk again and to work. That's so much fun. Thank you all for being here and helping create all this art we're doing. So much fun.
It was a great thrill, and believe me, I enjoyed it more than you did, Mike. I guarantee I did. So.
The book's title again is Code Gray, and it's going to be available in audiobook in a short while. And it'll be on Amazon. I believe this one's being released worldwide on all audiobook platforms, right? So.
Yeah, it'll be a worldwide release with my stage name, Champ Westwood. Will be the narrator on that one.
Champ Westwood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Don't let it throw you.
Looking forward to it.
So fun.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.